5, 2021. This is a hybrid meeting. We have actually have a couple of planning commissioners that are taking part remotely, as well as obviously in person. So we'll likewise be have applicants and audience that will be joining with us virtually as well. First item on the agenda is a review of the meeting minutes for April 21, 2021. Any comments, concerns, motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support. Motion by Scott, supported by Tyler to approve the minutes of the April 21, 2021 minutes. Tricia, well, why don't we do this on the minutes? If anyone is in opposition of passing the minutes, please indicate by saying aye. Okay, we're all in favor then of approving the minutes as submitted. Next item is opportunity for general public comment. It's an opportunity generally for non-agenda items. If you've got an issue or concern that you'd want to share, this is an opportunity to provide that. And I look in the room. Is there anyone in the room that would wish to come forward? Okay, seeing none. Jason, do you see anybody in the audience that would wish to offer a comment on a non-agenda item?
If you're on the phone, you got to do *9 to raise your hand.
Okay, all right, no comment this time. We'll move to the regular agenda items. First of which is case number 21-011. This is a public hearing. It's a final area site plan for 3060 South Industrial Drive. Lot 9 of the Northridge East IPUD. Involves Speedrack Midwest and DeYoung and Visser brothers are coming forward with this. But at this point, we're going to turn over to Planning Director Tricia Anderson to provide us with the introduction to the project.
Thanks, Terry. So we have Speedrack Midwest requesting final area site plan review from the Planning Commission. Little overview of the property and the request. So the Planning Commission is being asked tonight to review the 278 square foot 278,000 square foot building known as phase 1 for Speedrack Midwest, and to grant approval with conditions or tabling of the request. Again, this is a final area site plan review. The address is 3060 South Industrial Drive. The lot size is a total of 31.88 acres, which excludes the right of way. And the zoning district is the Northridge East IPUD. Future land use designation is Business Enterprise Northwest Neighborhood Cluster. And the general location of the site is south of the Coopersville Marne Railway at the end of the South Industrial Drive temporary cul-de-sac. And again, we have Dave DeYoung of Visser Brothers with us tonight. And we may have Heath Baxter and Greg Bull joining us remotely. So just a little bit about Speedrack. I was able to do a little bit of research from their website. And they are currently located in Sparta. And what they do is they specialize in customized material handling solutions, which means they create areas for storage of materials and pallet racks, and their production of these types of products also contributes to efficiency in the workplace in some of these warehouses. So their client base is primarily warehouses and distribution centers. I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit more about what Speedrack does in just a few minutes, but just a brief overview of the company itself. So a little bit of background, as you know, the Northridge East IPUD was amended and you all approved this at the March 17, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. And so just a reminder that that amendment called for the combination of lots 9 and 10 to be one large development site. And it's referred to also as Northridge East IPUD Phase 2. And so that amendment also allowed for the reconfiguration of South Industrial Drive. So instead of it extending all the way to the westernmost property line, it ends in a cul-de-sac, not as close to that property line. Which makes more sense for this particular single development. So again, here's the amended version of Northridge East IPUD Phase 2. And we're calling this Lot 9. So for the Speedrack site, the following improvements are proposed. And this is just for Phase 1 of this development. So Phase 1 consists of a 278,000 square foot building for shipping, warehouse, and manufacturing. It also has some space for office and some training. And there are 194 parking spaces proposed, and the plan also calls for 111 deferred parking spaces. And then there's an additional 349, I believe, parking spaces that are called out on the plan to be deferred, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. They are also proposing lighting, landscaping, and stormwater management facilities. They're bringing utilities all the way to the the western property line, water and sewer. And there's also space for future building expansion that would mirror Phase 1. So Phase 2 would consist of essentially this, the other half of the building. So in the end, this will be a pretty large building. So here's the overall site layout. You can see that the utilities are being extended all the way to the end here. During that amendment process, we talked a lot about how these properties, while the topography is a little bit challenging, there's still a potential for some development there. It's not super likely, but it's not impossible. So it was important for us to have the developer extend these utilities all the way to this property line. And you'll see that the cul-de-sac is here instead of all the way to the end like it was in an earlier version of the PUD. So going back to the parking, there's over on the western corner of the site, there's an area that shows 349 spaces as deferred parking, and the applicant is proposing 192 spaces where 303 spaces are proposed based on the floor areas within the building. And so because it's a PUD, we've got a high level of flexibility, and the Planning Commission can approve a reduced number of parking spaces. And I believe that this area of 349 spaces is shown so that if there is a need for parking in the future, they're showing it on the plan that they have space available and they have enough space for 349 spaces. I have a note in my staff report asking for the applicant to sort of provide a little bit more clarification on the note under the parking calculations where it shows deferred parking as 111 spaces. So I'm assuming that is for the second phase. But I'd just like the applicant to clarify exactly what each of those areas are for. Either way, staff is in support of the parking numbers proposed. Another thing that's a little bit different with this site is that we talked during the PASP amendment about how the applicant would like to be able to construct the building around the same timeline or concurrently with the construction of the utilities and the road. Because obviously the road's not there yet. And it sounds like the business is under a little bit of pressure to be able to stay on track with the project. And so one way to be able to accommodate that is by allowing the developer to construct the road and put in the utilities at the same time that the building is being built. And so there are some general notes on the site plan. Number 9 speaks to any damage to existing utilities by the contractor shall be repaired at the contractor's expense. So this is a good note, but we just like the applicant to add one more thing to that, indicating that any damage to the road would be repaired at the applicant or at the contractor's expense. And these items will also be covered in a development agreement that is in the works right now. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. One more thing that the applicant is proposing is highway facing signage. Under the sign chapter or sign article in the zoning ordinance, highway facing signage requires planning commission approval. Again, this is a PUD, and so we do have flexibility to allow this as part of the final area site plan. They've done a really good job with providing all of the proposed signage details. So because of that, you know, if they wanted to add additional signage down the road, we wouldn't have to come back to the planning commission because they've added details that would speak to all the signage that they would need. At first, they weren't really sure if they were going to have some signage on the front of the building where it faces South Industrial Drive, but they put some sign details for that sign in the event they decided they do want that in the second phase. So that's good. So here's just some images of the facade. I personally think this is a nice looking building. Especially with the faux wood panels here. I think this will end up looking very nice, especially being able to see it from the highway. So going back to this development agreement, this is being handled through the city manager's office, and they are working with the city attorney to get this development agreement drafted and in a form that's ready to go and ready to be signed before we issue a building permit. And it sounds like if it's not complete before, if the development agreement isn't 100% complete, before they want to apply for a building permit, they can certainly go ahead and apply. And if it comes down to it, we may be able to allow for a foundation permit before the rest of the building. Sometimes developers who are on a tight timeline are interested in doing that. But it sounds like they are working through some of the railroad issues because obviously this site, in order to access it, you have to cross the Coopersville-Marne Railway. And so the development agreement will speak to some of the railway things, but there'll be a separate agreement with the railway for the easement for the crossing. But the development agreement will allow for concurrent construction of the building and the public road and utilities. And then again, this is required to hold the developer accountable for damage caused to the public road and utilities during the construction process of the building. So to speak to the railroad crossing, It's an easement agreement, separate from the development agreement, and it's being reviewed and handled by the manager's office, the developer and the city attorney. And then, you know, there was a comment, there was a lot of emails going back and forth about some items to include in the easement for the railroad crossing. And one of them was being that site distance be maintained, and you know, the railroad tracks on both sides are visible at all times. And so the easement agreement, in addition to the easement agreement, we've asked the developer to add a note to the plan that indicates that no trees or other landscaping allowed that could impair the lines of sight to the tracks. And it says to mow area regularly, and vegetation shall not be allowed to exceed 12 feet in height. So it's always good when we have that right on the plan. So we don't have to go digging for a separate document when, if we ever have to enforce that. So I am making a recommendation that the Planning Commission grant final area site plan approval for the 278 square foot industrial building and associated site improvements for phase 1 for Speedrack Midwest within phase 2 or lot 9 of the Northridge East IPUD per the plan set with the last revision date of April 19, 2021, subject to the following conditions. So the developer and occupant of lot 9 shall work with the city manager's office to enter into a development agreement with the city of Walker that would hold the developer responsible for private snow removal and storage outside of the public road right of way, and for repairs to any portion of South Industrial Drive that becomes damaged during the construction process. This agreement shall be recorded prior to the issuance of a building permit. And then also note number 9 on sheet C2 shall be revised to reference the responsibility for repairs to the road during the construction process in accordance with the development agreement referenced in condition number 1. And number 3, the developer shall address all the items outlined in the city engineer's report dated April 28, 2021. And the applicant shall revise the parking note on sheet C2 to clarify that 111 parking spaces are referring to future parking associated with phase 2, if that's the case. And those are all of my comments.
Thank you, Tricia. Commissioners, any comments, questions?
How often does a train go down that track?
That's a good question that I do not know the answer to, but I have been on the Coopersville Marne Railway on the Santa train.
Is that at a holiday or something? Or the robbery and stuff on it?
Would Commissioner Bile have an answer to that?
I didn't hear the question.
Oh, is your mic on, Joe?
How often does a train go down that track?
6 times a month, maybe? 6 to 8 times a month, not high traffic at all.
That much? Okay.
I do have a question though on that. Item number 1, it says the developers responsible for private snow storage outside the right of way. Is that what you're intending to say?
Keeping snow storage out of the right of way. Is it not reading right?
I don't know. I was trying to figure out what it was saying.
So hold the developer responsible for private snow removal and storage outside of the public road right of way. So what that is pertaining to is when we had, I'll share my screen again. When we had the, sorry.
Wouldn't that be responsible for snow storage and removal in the right of way?
No, we don't want the owner of lot 9 to be responsible for removing snow in the public road right of way. But we want to make sure that any snow removal, can you see my screen here, Tom?
Yep.
So it's essentially this area here. Because of this bend, there was a lot of discussion about making sure that the owner of lot 9 has their own private snow removal, and that they would not be storing snow in the right of way. What's that? Lot 9 to remove snow outside the standard travel lines. Thank you, Travis.
I don't think that's what that sentence says in your report, but I could be confused.
I don't know if the planning commissioners want to weigh in on that. If you can jog your memory back to when we amended the PASP.
Well, I think that everyone's aware of the intent there, and if it's a matter of doing some wordsmithing in order to clarify that, that's fine. I don't think that we necessarily have to spend the time right now to figure out what that wordsmithing is.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other comments or question for Tricia? We'll then turn it over to Travis Marbury. And your title is?
Travis Mabry, Assistant City Engineer. You're welcome. Yeah. Take this off. Okay. So, yeah, I'm filling in for Scott today since he had another obligation. So Scott's memo was dated April 28th, 2021. You'll notice on it, I think it has 8 bullet points on it, which is typically more than we usually see at this point in the process. But Scott wanted to make sure that I pointed out that the reason why there's so many comments at this point in the process is because when this went through site plan review, the plans were missing a lot of information. And so our main comment was get a lot of stuff on these plans. And so what you're seeing before you now is almost more of what we would typically go through at a site plan review. None of them are showstoppers. They're the important details though that we still want to have addressed. I can talk through each one of them if you want me to. Or I'll just try to go through them real quickly one by one. So the main sheets that we were referencing are C2 and C3. C2 is a site and utility plan. We had a comment on there to add driveway details such as the driveway width, the radii for the driveway coming off the end of the cul-de-sac there, and towards the end of the road too. The second bullet talks about truck sizes. You're going to see some dashed lines on South Industrial Drive that make that bend through what we kind of call the wounded knee, because it looks like the 90-degree curve there. And we'd like to know what size truck turning templates were used to make those lines. And because we want to compare that to what size trucks does the company need to use on a regular basis. It's in everyone's best interest to keep that turning radius as large as possible to allow trucks to pass by, but not overly large, so that we have all of that excess snow and stuff to remove in that area. The reason it is kind of a little larger there is like we said, we wanted trucks to be able to pass by each other at the same time, while, especially with the railroad tracks nearby, we don't want any sort of weird safety issues going on because of backups onto the railroad tracks. So just let us know what size trucks were being used there so we can verify the dashed lines. Bullet 3 talked about dimensions and radii for the Pioneer Trail. I think it's shown on sheet C7, but we'd like to have a note on the site plan sheet, just so that, you know, when you're out in the field and you've got a big set of plans, it's nice to be a little reiterative on some of them, so it's easier to find the information. We also on sheet C2 would like a label for the 10-foot private utility easement. It's shown on there in dashed lines. We just need a label to call it out, and that'll help with future readability when we're trying to locate that easement. We get down to point number 5, sheet C3. There's, if you look at the plan that's on the screen in front of you right now, you'll see there's kind of 2 parallel roadways. There's like the truck entrance, and then there's the employee kind of wraparound road there on the west side of the site, or and there's a 10-foot strip of land between the two. Can you point that 10-foot strip of land out real quick in between the 2 entrances? All the way to the west, all the way towards the cul-de-sac, going down, down, down. Right there, right, that little strip of land. Yes, yep. So that strip of land right there, if you look on sheet C3, there's a cross-section CC that shows what that cross-section looks like where there are catch basins. And it has 2-inch wash stone surrounding the catch basins. We're asking and requiring that 2-inch wash stone be used along that entire strip because they're sheet flowing the water to that strip. So the water will sheet flow into the strip and then down to a catch basin. It needs to be a non-erodible surface, which equals out to the 2-inch wash stone there. So just actually acting as a collection basin. We go to page 2 and bullet point number 6. We're still on sheet C3. We talked about a note talking about where you can find the sidewalk grade elevations. They're shown on C7, but typically you'd look at sheet C3, which is the grading plan sheet for that too. Bullet point number 6, once again, another cross-section BB on the grading plan sheet that is talking about the 100-year overflow channel for the detention pond. The grades are wacky on it. Either the contours are off or the cross sections are off. They're off by about 20-ish feet. So we just want that double checked so that we have a better understanding of how high are the walls on the detention pond and where is the 100-year overflow elevation compared to the standard catch basin elevation for the standard outfall. Yes, standard outfall. Bullet point number 8 talks about a retaining wall. It's actually really tough to see, but down the southeast corner of what's on your screen there, you can barely make out a darker black line. And Scott seemed to have some discussions and figured out that that was going to be a retaining wall that was going to be used. We obviously need details on that retaining wall. We want to make sure no trespasses occur, especially if a temporary grading permit's needed to install the wall. You want to know how high the wall is, all that kind of stuff. So just a comment to address that. So like I said, stuff that's, none of this is deal breaker information. It's just kind of nitty gritty details that we typically get through earlier in the process, but the way this project kind of panned out, it's happening now. So that's it.
All right, thank you, Travis.
All right, any comments or questions for Travis? Okay, seeing none. Could give the floor to the applicant. If you could come forward, give your name and either your business address or your home address for the record, please.
My name is Dave DeYoung. I'm with Visser Brothers. We're the general contractor for Speedrack in this situation. Very nice presentation, Tricia, as usual. So I don't think there's really anything that I feel like I need to or should be adding to it. I would like to just point out that the memorandum from the engineering department, Scott's memo that you were just talking about, we don't have a problem with any of that stuff. We've already shared that information with our engineer and we'll take care of all that stuff. It's going to be a very fast moving project. We have our challenges laid out in front of us and we look forward to it. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody may have. Otherwise, I'll sit back down.
Mr. DeYoung, in terms, is there a company rep that would be able to speak to
Certainly.
Their current location as far as the size of that building and the workforce? And what do you foresee to take place here?
Certainly. Joining me is going to be Eric Quist with Speedrack. He is the president.
Again, Eric Quist, Speedrack. So our current facilities are in Quincy, Michigan. One thing on your wonderful presentation, there's Speedrack Midwest is a separate company. So there's Speedrack and then there's Speedrack Midwest, and they're the same owner, but they're two completely separate entities, just to let you know. So anyway, Speedrack is down in Quincy, Michigan. We just put another 125 to 150,000 square foot addition to our building, which makes it about 500,000 square foot. We employ about 220 employees, including salary at this point. We could probably use about 40 more. It's a hard time finding employees today. So then we have a satellite facility in Litchfield, Michigan, which is about 10 minutes from there. That has about 30 employees in it. And, we manufacture rack, all of like the rack that went into the building up by the airport. We built all of that rack at our union facility there in Quincy. And we also did the install. We did all the sprinkler systems, all the lighting in that building as well. And we're doing 8 or 9 of those more for Amazon this year. And some other facilities for Amazon. We do work for Ford and Medline and Stryker and many other companies as well. So there's mainly welders, which is in then skilled trades and maintenance, tool and die makers and so forth. General laborers, we powder coat paint. We have rolling mills. There'll be one specialized rolling mill in this facility. There'll be a robot connected to that rolling mill that will actually, after our products roll, it'll be welded. Then it'll be manually transported over to a powder coat paint line and it'll be painted there. So, and the plan is there's 278,000 square foot here. The plan is to probably another 200 to 250,000 square foot in a couple more years, depending on how everything goes. We are, our corporate offices are in Sparta currently. There's no manufacturing there. Again, the other company, Midwest, has some warehouses up there, but that's a separate entity. So we're going to be bringing about 40 employees over from that facility, engineers and so forth, in the new offices here, project managers, executives, and then we'll have upwards of probably 20 additional hires as salary people in this facility, as supervisors, management, HR, and so forth. It's really neat. If you see on a sign is a union emblem there. So we're 100% union down in Quincy. We have a contract for another 5 years, I think, with them. Obviously, right to work. So this automatically won't be a union facility, but we have a very good working relationship with the millwrights out of. They're out of Warren, but they have a facility. If you ever seen it on 131 in Wayland. It's a brand new facility. It's a wonderful training facility. Ever get a chance to walk through there. So they're going to help us recruit employees for this facility and train them at their facility as welders and robot operators and so forth. So that's another wonderful opportunity there. And we plan to have them on board. So full benefits, medical benefits, vacation, sick time.
Sounds like a nice addition to this area.
Yeah, I think we're planning on probably, the average wage should be right around $25 an hour. I think this area for what we do is probably going to demand that. But I think we'll be competitive with that wage in this area.
One of the things that was raised in the review was the number of parking spaces. It sounds like even with the number that you have deferred, that you may have in excess of enough parking to meet your needs.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. So I think originally we're going to upwards of 150 in this phase 1 are going to be hired. And that would include the 20 salary folks. Then we have the 40 coming in from Sparta. It'll be 2-shift operation. And then the next phase will probably be 75 to 100 more employees. So I think we'll have plenty of parking.
Yeah, it sounds like if you've got 2 shifts, when there's that crossover, you've got the capacity then to.
Yeah, and that road coming around, we did that. That road that comes around, there was some question on that 10-foot area. So that, if you look at that, our salary employees over on the east end of the offices there. And we originally had the employees coming in that same entrance and parking way over there, but it's really a safety concern, but because typical hourly employees, they want to get out of work and get going. So, we decided to defer that traffic that way over there for the hourly folks so they can not have any problems getting out.
All right, very good. Commissioners, any other questions?
So I sense from your standpoint, times are good and they're gonna get better. I mean, you're building stuff for new plants and new machinery and stuff, and new shelving and stuff, and you're expanding. So you're doing well during good times. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So, and in our industry, because of Amazon and what they've shown us, they've given us a picture in the future for the next several years. For us to meet that demand, this building is necessary for us to continue to grow. But just e-commerce in general, Gap, we do all of Gap buildings across the country. They become almost 100%. The clothing retailer, e-commerce, and Macy's is going that direction as well. So, with everything with COVID, I think people are used to ordering online and they're going to continue to order online. So, and that's our specialty is building these types of racking systems.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. There's no other questions. This is a public hearing with a final area site plan. So appreciate you'll be available if there's any additional comments, questions for you.
Always, yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Motion by Tyler,
Support.
supported by Stephen to open the public hearing. Anybody in opposition to that? Motion carried. Public hearing is open. So anyone in the audience this evening or out on the airwaves that would like to pose a question or comment on this, please come forward or raise your virtual hand so that we can be recognized.
Once again, the person on the phone, *9 to raise your hand and *6 to toggle the mute.
Okay, see no public comment, hearing none.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
Motion by Tyler, supported by Steve to close the public hearing. Again, anybody in opposition to that? Motion carried. Got a fairly complete discussion of the application. Good comments from planning and engineering. Any questions or someone ready for offer a motion?
I can offer a motion, Mr. Chair, for case 21-001 to approve the final area site plan for a 278,000 square foot industrial building and associated site improvements, phase 1 for Speedrack Midwest within phase 2, lot 9. It would be Speedrack, not Speedrack Midwest.
Speedrack Products Group.
Yeah, within phase 2, lot 9 of the Northridge East IPUD per plan set with a last revision date of 4/19/2021, subject to the following conditions. The developer and occupant of lot 9 shall work with the city manager's office to enter into a development agreement with the city of Walker that would hold the developer responsible for private snow removal and storage outside of the public road right of way and for repairs to any portion of South Industrial Drive that becomes damaged during the construction process. This agreement shall be recorded prior to the issuance of a building permit. And I think we did clarify the intent on that condition as well. So that should be considered as they're doing so. Number 2, note number 9 on sheet C2 shall be revised to reference the responsibility for repairs to the road during the construction process in accordance with the development agreement referenced in condition number 1. The developer shall address all the items outlined in the city engineer's report dated 4/28/2021. The applicant shall revise the parking note on sheet C2 to clarify that the 111 parking spaces are referring to future parking associated with phase 2. Final area site plan findings of fact per section 94-219B and 94-2136 and 7. the Northridge East IPUD as detailed in the final area site plan continues to meet the standards contained in subsection 3G regarding preliminary area site plan content and does meet any other applicable standards for review. The final area site plan is in substantial compliance with the previously approved preliminary area site plan consisting of the maps and accompanying written materials required under subsection 2 of section 94-213. The final area site plan complies with the uses permitted by Northridge East IPUD and any prohibitions of specific uses by the Planning Commission pursuant to section 94-2133J. Appropriate services by public water and sewage utilities, public roads, and other essential services will be available for immediate use of occupants of Lot 9. Lot 9 will have direct access to a public collector or arterial street. All future uses on Lot 9 will be designed, constructed, and operated to comply with the performance standards as provided in Article 15 of the Walker zoning ordinance. Loading docks and truck maneuvering areas will be designed and located so as not to adversely affect adjacent and neighboring lands or uses due to noise, odor, light, or other external effect. Except as otherwise expressly approved by the Planning Commission, all permitted principal uses on Lot 9 must be conducted within a completely enclosed building except for loading and unloading operations, on-site parking of vehicles, and the reasonable storage of materials and products which are related to the principal use of Lot 9 as shown on the final area site plan.
Thank you, Steve. Any support?
I'll support that motion.
Support by Tyler. If there's no other questions, Tricia, if you could call the roll, please.
Steve,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark. And Pat,
Yes.
and I don't know if Tom is voting.
I'll abstain.
Okay.
All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Walker.
And I'll make sure that I make all the references to Speedrack Midwest, change it to just Speedrack. Okay. 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 Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is case number 21-008. This is a courtesy site plan review relating to the public school property at 3971 Richmond Street Court. It's an addition to the existing building, new access drive to Kinney, playground expansion, stormwater management for the early childhood center. Travis Verink, GMB Architecture and Engineering will be here representing the group. And hand it over to Tricia, Planning Director, to provide an introduction.
We have a couple of representatives with us, Travis Verink and Jerry, Superintendent. And so Kenowa Hills Early Childhood Center is being proposed for a building addition, playground expansion, and new access on Kinney. And so, as you know, the schools in the city of Walker are under the state's jurisdiction for construction permits. So they will work with the state of Michigan to get their building permits. We usually do a courtesy site plan review here at the Planning Commission because they do find your comments beneficial on the site plan. And they will be working with the city of Walker to obtain highway permits, stormwater permits, and soil erosion permits. So a lot of this site plan review is geared more toward those items. From a planning and zoning perspective, I don't have a lot of additional comments or recommendations. And again, there's no action that's to be taken tonight, just a courtesy site plan review. So just to give an overview of the proposed improvements, they're proposing new playground surfaces and structures and new playground areas where they weren't before. A 13,000 square, 199 square foot building addition, 6 additional classrooms within that addition, a new drive approach on Kinney where there was not one before, and emergency maintenance access routes along the northern side of the building. They're also proposing an extended learning area and stormwater management upgrades, and they are moving some of the existing utilities around on the site. So this is what the existing conditions look like. Let me move this thing over. Is that gonna bother you, Jason? Okay. So I kind of did an overlay of the aerial photo on top of the site plan. So you can see that this large building expansion will be here and all the new playground areas here. They have an existing playground here, which I believe is planned to be replaced. And they've got some other areas out here that are being added for playground, and I think it's the part of the extended learning areas. And then they've got a driveway access here on Kinney. One way in, and then coming out, you can go left or right. So it's their intention to have parents take this access drive from Kinney and do drop off of their kids and pick up over in this area here. This is also meant for teachers to and staff to come in and park. And then the Richmond court access will then be used for buses. And it's my understanding that there's 2 buses, being that this is an early childhood center and not your regular elementary school. And so the kids that are being bused over will be attending before and after care. And then they'll be bused back to their regular school. So here's another view of the site. And again, these access points here on Richmond Court will be for buses to move in and through and out. And then again, this is the new driveway location for the drive approach on Kinney. And then this is the site layout without being overlaid. So you can see the extensive amount of playground expansion that they're proposing here. I secretly wish that my children were attending this early childhood center. I guess it's not a secret anymore. So this is, it sounds like they have a bond out there, and this is the first part of what's covered under that bond. And phase 2 they'll be getting ready for that in 2025. And so according to the applicant, the next phase will be designed to align with the next funding phase for the bond, and it'll include another building addition along the south side of the building. And then at that time, Kenowa Hills Public Schools will come before the Planning Commission for another courtesy site plan review, just as they are now. And with all those comments said, I'm going to hand it over to Travis for any engineering comments.
Leave it up to the engineers to always have comments, right? So, yeah, like like we said, this is just a courtesy review. Our comments are pretty small on this. We got 4 minor comments listed in Scott's memo from April 28th, 2021. The first bullet point was adding an address to the plans. I know it's on the cover sheet. I think the request is more to just whenever we can sneak in an address label on the other sheets, that's helpful in the future as we refer back to plan sets. And then bullet point number 2 talks about the curb returns for the new driveway. It's, I don't know if you can quite see it on this screen here, but where the parent drop-off driveway is, the curb radii seem to stop a little short of the existing curb line, and then it kind of flares out. I figured it was just some sort of a drafting snafu, so just want to get those lined up so that the curb radii tie straight into the road radii. Bullet point number 3 was the ADA warning plates. I know this gets a little difficult. This is kind of at that borderline spot, but they're technically not required for this driveway. So we only require ADA warning plates at public road intersections or something that operates like a public road intersection, such as like a Meyer driveway at a traffic signal or something. So, and then bullet point number 4 was talking about the sanitary sewer tie-in on Richmond Court. On this sheet, you can see a darker color of pavement there in the south on the very bottom right-hand part of the screen. That's where the sanitary sewer is going to tie in at Richmond Court. There's a note about asking the developer to coordinate, obviously, with the surrounding homes and businesses when the time comes to do that to mitigate impacts. But also to instead, I think it's right now it's called out to patch the roadway with the heavy duty pavement. We'll handle this through the highway permit process, but we're going to ask that you follow one of probably our commercial street specification. It's very similar to what you have, but the details get a little different as far as the mix type and stuff. And that's it. Yep. Thanks.
I'm going to show my ignorance here. What is our school zoned as?
It would, so this one, I think is zoned R1. But sometimes they're public, semi-public, but schools are permitted in any of the residential districts.
Okay, I was just curious, did you own the lot or did you have to buy the lot out to Richmond or Kinney?
That lot was purchased by the school.
Oh, I just didn't know if there had to be rezoning or anything. That's just my ignorance, so sorry.
Oh, and I can look that up for, I'm almost positive it's R1, but I'm gonna find out for sure. Okay, so I knew it was some kind of residential zoning district. Thank you, Mark.
Any other comments or questions of our staff? Okay, we'll turn it over to the applicant, please.
Good evening. My name is Travis Brujink. I work with GMB Architects Engineers here tonight, representing Kenowa Hills Public Schools. Also with me is Superintendent Jerry Hopkins. Yeah, we're here to answer any questions that you have. I think, again, Trisha did a really good job just kind of laying out what the project is. Not a whole lot to add to that. The only other thing just wanted to say from a utility standpoint, we are bringing this site up closer, mostly up to compliance with the more recent stormwater rules. Trying to make sure that we're doing better with the sites than just the bare minimum. So also got some, again, Trisha kind of mentioned some really nice outdoor features, extended learning areas outside to really help the kids that are going to be at the site. So other than that, Kinney and the drive approach are the two big significant changes to the site besides the addition and the pond. So I think that's it. I don't know if Jerry, if you have any other comments that you want to.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come back. I want to thank Trisha and the City Walker officials. They've met with Travis and GMB team on at least 2 occasions to work through the process before we come here with this, with the plans for you this evening, and been super helpful. As you know, this is a result of the community support of our bond proposal. This is now the last of our schools in the city of Walker that will be renovated as a result of the community support. And the focus here is for our youngest learners in the district. Those students are mostly preschool age children, and phase 1 of this that we're planning is for what we call the Learning Center. Maybe a little bit misleading, although there's a lot of learning that occurs. It's really before and after school childcare and during school childcare. So, this all is being designed around the safety for those youngest learners. We also have before and after school age childcare as well, and that's where the buses, like Tricia mentioned, are needed to shuttle students from the building to their elementary school setting, and then back after school as well. The school opens at 6:30 in the morning and closes at 6 p.m. and it operates just about all throughout the school year because of the child care. So phase 2 will come before you when we get ready for that later in our construction, but that will be for the other portion of the building. So the district did purchase the 2 lots, the one where the driveway is planned for here. Not mentioned, but I think it's super important to the commission. I know it's super important to us, is there will not be access from Kinney as a cut through into Richmond Court. Through the development process, there will be a spot that will, an area, there will be a complete distinction. So that was always a concern of ours, and why we took so long to plan it was we were concerned that it would become a cut through area into that neighborhood, and we don't want that to be the case. So that will be taken care of as well. So any questions that you might have?
We appreciate you guys in education. I don't know of any more trying year you must have had. What's going on now, to get up in the morning and not realize what's going to happen, and everybody's got their own idea of what's wrong and what we should do. I mean, this must be just terrible. We appreciate all the efforts you're making, and you got a good school system. I'm a pediatrician at ABC Pediatrics, old job, and we appreciate about 25% of our students went to your schools. We've had excellent relationship with you guys, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been a trying year to say the least, but it's almost finished.
If I may, what's the capacity of the building now, and how do you see the increase in capacity associated with this addition?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a difficult one to answer because of the programming that we have. So we serve about 125 students in our before and after school program. And then that's for the school age children, and then and certainly some younger ones as well that have to come early because of parents working and whatnot. And then during the course of the day, we have around 300 students that access the building, not at any one time, but access it for the different programming that we have in there. So we offer the childcare programming. We also have early childhood special education, Great Start Readiness preschool, and tuition-based preschool in there as well. So it's a busy place, very busy place. Doesn't sound like it when you're talking 300 students, but it's a busy place with lots of different programming going on.
A lot of coming and going
Yeah,
into the property.
exactly. Yeah, and we wanted to address that with the safety measures that we put in place. The other thing I didn't talk about is the way it's currently designed with our childcare portion. They're accessing the building that's actually going to be renovated. It would be the northeast corner of the building, completely different from the main entrance to the building. So we have people coming in and out at different locations, and it poses a real safety concern. So with this renovation, they'll all be accessing from the main entrance of the building, and really will address that safety concern that we have currently.
Thank you.
The only comment I'd make is I think looks like a really great plan. I drive down Kinney quite often, and I about drove off the road when all those trees disappeared. Yeah, and there was a lot of trees there. It was shocking. So that just kind of surprised. I didn't know what was going in there either. So it was like, really, wow, what's going on? So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have a gentleman, I think you were at the meeting a couple weeks back. Did you have any comments or questions on this project? All right, well, you're welcome thank you for coming this evening. And there's no action to be taken, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the last item on the agenda is case number 21-015. It's highway sign review. Property at 3261 3 Mile Road, Kaat, Culligan Water. Dan Fenske of City Sign Erectors. If he's not in the audience, is he online? Okay, all right. Tricia, if you want to go over the request, please.
Presenting the applicant. Well, this should be quick then. So you probably remember the planning commission approval of the redevelopment of this site back in July of 2020. And they're over on 3 Mile Road, 3261 3 Mile Road. And right now they're wrapping up their construction efforts over there, and they're getting ready. They're to the point now where they're ready to install some signage. And they've applied for some wall signage on the front of the building and some wall signage on the side of the building that faces I-96, 196, I-96. And ordinance section 94-411 D17 for signs in office districts and industrial districts indicates that wall-mounted signs may be permitted on non-front building walls or non-corner lots for property adjacent to I-96, US 131, or I-196, such wall-mounted signage shall be subject to the review and approval by the city planning commission. And such wall-mounted signage square footage shall apply toward the amount granted per this subsection 94-411D. So that 94-411D provides the maximum square footage for wall signage. So here's a view of the building from not really from being on the highway, but from being as the crow flies. And so the proposed location for this sign would be here on this end of the building.
Tricia,
Yes.
we can't see you.
Oh, what's going on here? How long was it like that?
Space is rather intimidating too. Right there, it's in your face. I don't want to say beyond that, guys. Just in your face. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so here is the view from way up high in the sky of the building, and the arrow is pointing to where the sign is being proposed. And then this is an image of this is the 60 square foot sign that's being proposed, and this is the rendering from the sign contractor. So pretty straightforward. I'm recommending that the planning commission approve the 60 square foot wall sign that's facing 196 for Kaat's Culligan Water, located at 3261 3 Mile Road Northwest. And I also wanted to add that the wall signage that's being proposed on the front wall is 20 square feet. So it's just the words Culligan Water. And so the maximum square footage for this site is 80 square feet. So with the front wall and the highway facing wall sign, it equates to 80 square feet.
Tom, Pat, still with us?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. Case number 21-015 highway sign review. Can you leave that up?
Oh, I'm
Trish, So I
sorry.
can read it. You didn't put a motion sheet in, so I'm winging it.
That's okay. At least this is an easy one to wing. Sorry, I can't. There we go. I know. I'll go back to that recommendation. There you go.
Case number 21-015 highway sign review, 3261 3 Mile Road Northwest, Kaat's, Culligan, Water, Dan Fenske of Sign City Erectors. I make a motion to approve the 60 square foot wall sign facing I-96 for Kaat's, Culligan, Water located at 3261 3 Mile Road Northwest as proposed.
Support.
Motion by Tyler, supported by Steve, to approve the requested 60 square foot wall sign. Tricia, if you could go through a roll call, please.
Steve,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark, Tom,
yes,
Pat.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Alrighty.
Thank you. Tricia, anything?
So since we last met, the Waterford Village project went to the city commission, and you probably are all aware that the city commission voted 4-2 to deny that rezoning request. So on the May 10th meeting, they'll be adopting some findings of fact in support of their decision for that. And so I think what that means is that the developer will likely go back to the drawing board and move some pieces of the plan around in order to meet the direction of the city commission. Steve, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I can. My understanding is that the May 10th meeting, there will be discussion about what the path forward looks like for the developer, more than anything else. So ultimately, one way or another, it sounds like it will end up back at this level for further review. So I guess that would be my concise update.
We voted unanimously to pass that, didn't we? Everybody got that?
We went 6-1. I went.
You did. I'm sorry. I
Yep.
missed it. Okay.
Yep. But yeah, it went 4-2 at the city commission. The other way.
I apologize. Okay.
Yeah,
So Steve, this is Pat. So you opened a can of worms on this one.
Sorry, repeat that.
You opened a can of worms on this one because now the developer can come back and start creating those streets out to Lake Michigan Drive. So the neighbors are a little bit antsy again. So
Yeah, I imagine they are. I imagine there's no direction where they wouldn't be, but yeah, no, I think that it does make it sort of ambiguous where we're at still, and that's never fun for anyone. But
well, the main thing is if I was a developer, I mean, I was at the city commission meeting, and it just kind of like the city commission didn't really give the developer anything concrete to go back on. I know you guys have a meeting on May 10th to kind of give them some direction, but hopefully we give them some good direction that's going to be good for everybody.
yeah, and I tried really hard to be super clear with the developer about where I was at least. And I did follow up with him just to make sure that I was very precise about what I was intending to say. And he called me after the meeting to talk about it too. So I think he knows at least what I'm trying to get at, and I think the general intent. But again, we'll have some more review on it on May 10th, which is what, next Monday or the Monday following?
Yeah, next Monday.
Next Monday.
Mhm.
And then, like I said, one way or another, it'll be back here for us to go through the process again.
Well, and I just want to remind everybody, all we did was vote to rezone. We did not vote on a PASP. So if they come back and want us to rezone more within the master plan, you know, that we can do that without a preliminary site plan. So, you know, but I think they need to go through the whole process again. I don't think it just picks up where it left off. It's been rejected.
Yeah, I think that your input on your recommendation to the city commission is going to be based on their the reconfiguration of their PASP. And so that's why I think that they'll end up having to go back to square one.
But I don't like it that they're asking that we have input on what they should do. They're the developer. I'm not the developer. We're here to approve plans. Like I said in my email, we're not here to, let's make a deal.
Well, what I should add that what our assistant city manager, Frank, has suggested is that the developer have a work session with the planning commission to sort of have the planning commission give more direction to the developer on what the city is going to want this plan to look like. But I see your point. It's not, let's make a deal. Right, Tom?
That's correct, but I thought I was pretty clear that I was okay with the rezoning, but I thought the plan really was very insufficient. I really don't know where this all goes. I mean, I thought there was work sessions with the developer leading up to the last presentation to the planning commission. So there or wasn't there?
Yeah, and they have a couple different options. You know, they could sell the property and just say, to heck with it. They could take legal action on the city for their decision at the city commission, or like we've all been discussing, they could go back to square one and try to get this in the way that the city commission is more acceptable or accepting of.
Well, what did the city commission tell them was acceptable or what they were looking for?
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yeah, we sent, I verbally described it, and I also made sure to send a physical map of what a rezoning that, at least what I am looking for in a rezoning map would be. And I've been very clear with city staff as well about this is kind of precisely what at least what I am looking for to make that generally palatable. And I know there's, I would say, consensus among the city commission that would be an agreeable direction to go, and it doesn't necessarily end up with a less net property for any of their use types. It's just rearranging the existing use types in the same developable land that they're proposing to put development onto. It's just ultimately a reconfiguration of where those zones lie on the site. And again, not to overburden us with detail at the end of the meeting, but that's I think the information has been received on their end, and it'll be a discussion about getting there.
You gave them your opinion, but the rest of it just said, we're okay with the rezone. We'll deal with the details later, but this seems to be a little mishmashy to me, but.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what the next step is as we go forward. Anything else?
The good news is
That was a big
Chick-fil-A
sigh.
is being built.
What was that, Tyler?
He said the good news is that Chick-fil-A is being built.
Where?
That is a mess
Ger-
up there.
German Village, the old
I
German
don't go
Village.
that way. It's too crowded. I stay on Alpine. Tyler, you should too.
Well, I wanted it on Alpine originally.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn on that note.
Thank you, Scott.
That note.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.